they still may act defensively, right? It's important to stay calm and focus on finding a solution together. Even if they start to act defensive, even if they start to get angry, it's important to recognize that these I statements are going to help you be a better communicator. These I statements are going to help the situation so you aren't getting worked up. So you're expressing yourself in a way that's clear and concise. Hey, y'all, and welcome to the #1 podcast for Black parents, Black people parenting. I'm your host, family engagement educator, and the glad dad, Dion Chavis. And today I want to talk about the importance of using I statements. That's right. I want to talk about using I statements in successful co-parenting relationships. Now, co-parenting, it ain't always easy. And I think that's that's speaking very, very lightly. But when there's conflict between the two parties, things get even harder, right? However, using I statements can help in diffusing arguments and resolving conflicts. Now, I know a lot of us didn't grow up hearing our parents use I statements, but this is going to be a new concept for you if you've never heard of I statements. And I get that. In fact, some of the things that I'm going to talk about in this episode are things that I wish I would have put into place when I was co-parenting with my daughter's mother. But parenting is a lifelong journey, right? And for a lot of us, we kind of fly in the plane as we build it. So let's get into it. Let's talk about I statements and let's talk about how they work, because I think that's important to understand. I statements are statements that begin with the word I, of course, and express how you feel, what you need, or how you see the situation. They're different from you statements, which oftentimes come off as blaming or accusatory. For example, if you're saying, you always make me late for pickup, right? You could easily say, I feel frustrated when I'm late for pickup because it disrupts my plans for the day, right? Can you see how the latter of the two is more constructive and less confrontational? So using I statements, it's beneficial for co-parenting in many ways. Firstly, it shows that you're taking responsibility for your own actions. You're taking responsibility for your own feelings, and you're expressing how you feel and what you need. So you're not only respecting yourself, but you're also showing respect to the other parent. And I think this sets the tone for a more productive style of a conversation. Secondly, I statements can help to de escalate conflicts. When we use you statements, it often puts the other person on the defensive. And we all know what happens when we're having a conversation with somebody and they become defensive. They start to feel attacked, or they might respond with anger or even more defensiveness, harsh words, things like that. On the other hand, I statements are less likely to trigger a defensive response. And instead, they can create an opportunity for both parties to find a solution together. And finally, I statements promote empathy and understanding, because when you share how you feel and what you need, the other parent is more likely to understand your perspective, understand your point of view. And this can create a more empathetic and compassionate co-parenting relationship, which is beneficial for everyone involved, especially the kids. So now that we've discussed the benefits of I statements, let's talk about how you can use them effectively. First, you should be specific about your feelings and your needs. Don't assume that the other parent knows how you feel. Don't assume that the other parent knows what you need. Second, be respectful in your tone and avoid blaming or attacking the other parent. And third, focus on the issue at hand and avoid bringing up past conflicts. You don't have to bring up stuff from last year, stuff from 6 months ago, stuff that happened. Nope, leave that stuff alone. Listen actively to the other parents' responses and be open to finding a solution to the problem together, right? And that's all you have to do. You want to work through finding solutions to the problems together as a team. Another example of a I statement where it could be used is when you say, you're always late for drop off. You could just as easily say, I feel frustrated when we're late for drop off because it affects our child's schedule. It's important to remember that using I statements may not come natural. It may not feel good to you at first, right? And it may take some practice to become comfortable with it. But the consistency is what's going to help you better to become a better user of the I statements, right? Because our co-parenting conversations, we want to be sure that they are effective conversations, that we're getting the most out of them. And eventually, they may be the I statements may be your default way of communicating, right? You may just every conversation that you're having with your co-parent, you are already starting off in mind how you're going to use your I statements. And while using these I statements can be effective, it ain't always easy because there are times when your feelings or your emotions could get really high or could get the best of you. And when those things happen, you can calmly just step back, take a break, take some time to yourself, and figure things out. And then come back to the conversation when you're feeling more centered, right? And it's important to recognize that your co parent may not always respond positively to those I statements. They still may act defensively, right? It's important to stay calm and focus on finding a solution together. Even if they start to act defensive, even if they start to get angry, it's important to recognize that these I statements are going to help you be a better communicator. These I statements are going to help the situation so you aren't getting worked up. So you're expressing yourself in a way that's clear and concise, right? If you or the person that you're co-parenting with comes from another culture, they may not necessarily understand how I statements work. They may take offense to it. So that's why it's important that you talk to the person that you're co-parenting with about their background, right? What culturally is that something that they're used to? Is it something that they could get used to, right? And if they're new to using I statements, that conversation has to happen because it can be helpful to introduce them into the new process of communicating. For example, you could start off by saying, I feel or I need in simple situations and gradually work your way up to more complex conversations. It's also important to communicate the benefits of I statements to your co-parents and encourage them to use them as well. Say this is how I think we could communicate because this is going to help us to eliminate some of the other stuff that goes on when we aren't always seeing eye to eye. And granted, it might be frustrating, it might be challenging, but it's important to stay focused on your own communication and continue to use I statements. It may also be helpful to acknowledge and validate your co parent's feelings, even if they're not expressing them in a constructive way. This is a good way to model communication for your children because your kids pick up on the smallest things, and teaching them early on how to effectively express themselves is something that we can do by example and not just telling them, well, do this because I said do it or do this because I told. No, we're going to show them better than we can tell them. And while I statements are often used in co-parenting conversations about young children, they can also be used effectively with our older children. For example, instead of saying, oh, you never listen to me, you could easily say, I feel unheard when I'm talking to you about important issues. Using I statements with older children can help to promote empathy and understanding and can also model effective communication skills. There may be times when co parenting situations are particularly difficult, such as during a divorce or during a custody battle. In those instances, it's important to stay focused on using I statements and to avoid blaming or attacking the other parent, which is so easy to do. It's so easy to start having a conversation, things start going in a different direction, and then we start to play the blame game. But we can also seek support. We can find therapists. We can find a mediator. Co-parenting can be a challenging experience, particularly if there are conflicts or what differences in communication, breakdowns in communication between the parents. Seeking the support of a therapist or a mediator can be helpful in navigating these difficult situations. Studies show that co-parents who attend mediation sessions and therapy sessions together are more likely to have better communication, greater satisfaction with their co-parenting relationship, and fewer conflicts compared to those who don't attend any sort of mediation or therapy together. Therapy can also provide a safe space for co-parents, right? It can be a place where parents can discuss their feelings, their concerns, and their parenting goals with a trained professional who can offer guidance and support. Also, co-parents who experience high levels of conflict and stress are more likely to have negative impacts on their children's mental health. This affects your children's emotional well-being, affecting things such as anxiety and depression. So that's something to think about. Seeking the support of a therapist or a mediator can help to reduce conflict and stress levels. And this can benefit both parents and children. So it's important to remember that seeking professional support does not mean that you have failed. It does not mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that somebody's going to know your business. All it means is that you have another tool at your hands to help you resolve the issues with the help of someone else, right? It can be viewed as a proactive step towards creating a positive co parenting relationship for the benefit of everyone involved. If you're interested in seeking the support of a therapist or mediator, talk to your co parent. Discuss the options that you have available in your area. And many communities offer affordable or free resources for co-parents. Things like mediation services, family therapy clinics, things like that. So, using I statements in co parenting conversations can be a powerful tool for promoting effective communication and resolving conflicts. By taking responsibility for your own feelings and your own actions, you can create a more constructive and empathetic co parenting relationship. Remember, be specific about your needs, but also be respectful and make sure that you are focused on finding a solution, not just talking the talk. You want to find a solution to the problem together. In addition to using I statements, there's several other tips and recommendations for successful co-parenting that I want to share. The first is make sure that you keep the focus on the children. Remember that co-parenting is about creating the best possible environment for your children. Keep their needs and their well-being at the forefront of your conversation and discussions. We want to be sure that we're raising kids who are happy, healthy, and whole. But also keep communication open and frequent. Regular communication can help to prevent misunderstandings and conflicts from escalating. Make sure to keep your co-parent involved and up to speed about your children's activities, their schedules, their health, all of those important things that are going on that you would want someone to let you know about. Make sure that you let your co-parent know about those things also. But respect each other's parenting style. It's okay to have different parenting styles as long as they're both safe and healthy for your children. And also avoid criticizing or judging your co-parent's parenting choices, especially around the child, and focus on finding common ground. Also, be flexible. Life is unpredictable. Schedules change, plans change, things change. And sometimes these things happen at the last minute, but we have to be willing to adjust and be flexible when unexpected situations arise. And then also make sure you seek support. When you need support, we know that parenting can be hard, it can be challenging, and it's okay if you want to seek the support of a therapist or a mediator or a pastor or a support group. These resources can provide guidance and to help you to navigate those difficult waters. Remember, co-parenting is an ongoing process. It's a marathon and not a sprint, and it may take time to develop the effective communication and co-parenting skills that we talked about. But by using I statements and following these tips, you can create a positive co-parenting relationship that benefits both you and your children. Okay? So if you found value in this episode of Black People Parenting, please remember to subscribe, like, and share the show with your friends. Leave us a comment because I love hearing from y'all. I love it when you shoot me emails. I love it when you send me DMs. And as always, I always say it, take care of each other, take care of your kids, but in the midst of it all, be sure that you are taking care of yourself. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of Black People Parenting. Peace.